Welcome to another episode of the Academy of Influence, the podcast where we deep dive into topics related to communication, leadership, and its impact on our professional and personal lives. The goal of this podcast is for all of us to gain something from the conversations with the guests on the show and to apply them in our own daily lives to become better communicators and leaders and to be a force for good in the world. Today's guest can be best described as a global citizen with many talents and interests, and a TEDx speaker with a mission to become an impactful storyteller. In this episode, we spoke about the power of mindset, the changes needed in the current education system, and her motivation on why she wants to become an influential figure. Her name is YiFan Wang, and I am Kian, the host of the show. Let's dive right in. To start off, I just want to share my impressions of you. I think I've known you maybe a little less than 2 years now, and my impression of you is that you come across to me as a very driven storyteller based on like the content I see you posting on your WeChat channels. So I guess my first question to you is, can you tell us a little bit about who Yifan is and what drives her?
Hi, everyone. It's my great honor to join Academy of Influence. I aim to be an influencer, and I'm on the way to do it right now. I am working as a PMO in a consumer healthcare MNC in Shanghai. And currently, I have a lot of interest, including being an impact-driven speaker, storyteller, and hopefully to be a coach. On the side, I also enjoy outdoor activities, exercises, hiking, traveling. I love global citizen. I love the concept. I am also putting it as my slogan to live it in my life. That is me, a curious explorer, an impact-driven storyteller, and continuously exploring what are the possibilities of my life.
Impact. So that's one keyword I picked up from the introduction that you just gave. So, what made you want to be an impactful person?
I probably would start from my life when I was a childhood. I At that time, my family is ordinary, but they always provide me the best learning resources as best as they can. I remember on my desk there is a world map underneath the glass on the desk. Every now and then, whenever I'm bored, I wanna chill, I would always read through the map. So at a very early stage, I can remember each city, each country, where they are, what's the shape like, what's their capital city, where are the mountains and rivers. So I got a lot of curiosity. And also I like watching news. I like to discuss about what happened at home and abroad with my grandparents. They constantly challenge me to think outside of my normal life. So I always had the idea of going abroad, traveling, and to see this world. So that shaped me to be a curious person. The world is your oyster, so you have to explore as much as you can. And second thing shaped me is my drive, my motivation. I think I perfectly inherited the mindset, the attitude from my parents. So they are factory worker in the past, but then they just put in all the hard work step by step, and we get better and better. Although I cannot say that they are the rags to rich, but they are certainly the perfect examples for me. If you put in your hard work, if you do it with your heart, you will be able to achieve whatever things you want to achieve. So that kind of shaped me to be someone who's resilient. I remember my mom told me when I was 4 years old, they took me to Mount Lu in Jiangxi province. There were more than 3,000 meters high, the mountain. And maybe at that young age, a lot of the children would like to take the cable or just to have their parents to carry them onto the mountain. But they just use lucrative bracelet as way for me to work on my goal. So step by step, I finally climbed up on the top of the mountain and they made their promise. And that has made me to feel that, okay, if I want to get what I want, I need to work for it. I cannot just take it for granted. So that kind of mindset has always embedded in me, and I always put in all my work to things that I want to become and I want to get, and the result would just follow. The most important thing is about the process. I've already made so many amazing friends. I feel like my life is full of serendipities of these people and people who have dreams. So that also made me to be a resilient dream catcher, and also think that how I can make the impact, how I can help more people to live a better life.
That's a very inspiring story in itself. And I just want to touch on one point that you just mentioned. You spoke about the reasons how you come to be very driven. And one thing I can relate with that is because at some point in my life, I just realized that I needed to explore beyond and pursue my dreams. And that's how I ended up packing my bags and flying to the US to pursue my education and eventually moved to China, where I've lived for the past 12 years. And I totally agree with you that the world is your oyster. There's so much to explore. So, my next question is, do you think drive can be cultivated, or are some people more driven than others? Because one example I always like to use is, even in my environment, I see that most people are just not as driven as some people. So, do you think drive can be cultivated, or do you think it needs something to spark?
Yeah, I certainly is a big fan of the spark. So I think there's certain reasons behind why some people are not as driven. Maybe their upbringing didn't bring them the motivation, or maybe they're just really comfortable with it. But until they find their passion, something that they really want to do, and they think that, okay, this is something that deserves me to put my entire life for it, no matter what the cost. So until they find that spark, perhaps they would not be as driven. But with that being said, I think we all different as human beings. So it is a choice that we have to make. You have to sacrifice your leisure time. For me, I did a lot of volunteering work to explore myself. It is something that I had limited chance to do when I was a teenager, and I really feel the fulfillment. The work that I'm do has impacted so many lives. So that created some sort of spark in me to make me feel that I'm happy, I'm fulfilled, no matter how much time and energy I put in. This is something that I want to do. So for some people, perhaps they just need an opportunity, just need the environment to help them explore more. But it is a choice that we have to make. I was asked about the similar question when I was giving a TED talk, because I encourage all the university students to step out of their comfort zone and try as many things as possible to find their passion and to help people to make their life meaningful. So someone asked me a question. I feel really comfortable. So why should I come out of my comfort zone? So I think it really depends on each individual, and also the environment can play an important role in a nutshell.
Since you mentioned someone asked you what's wrong being in a comfort zone. So actually my next question I want to ask is there really a problem with being in the comfort zone?
Yeah, I think it is a choice that we make. I can say that I'm comfortable with my life that I'm currently living, but I want to be better. I have the growth mindset. I want to change. So I have to fight for it. I have a dream. I want to catch it. So there are a lot of things that has been a driver for me to make me step forward. And that is for me. So for some people, they probably think, oh, I'm happy as long as I can sleep well, I can eat well, I can entertain well, and that's enough for me. I think there's nothing right or wrong. Maybe there are someone who's living at the present. But for me, I'm constantly thinking that, yeah, I want to do better. What's next? What's next? So it's a different ways of thinking about our life. And the reason why I think in that way is I don't know where I'm gonna be tomorrow. There are so many incidents, accidents out of our control. So I don't want to have any regret in my life. If tomorrow it's my last day, at least I have fight for my dream, no matter whether I achieved it or not. So that is my mindset. There's no right or wrong. It's just the choice that we have to make for ourselves.
So basically, don't be driven for the sake of being driven. We also need to have a purpose. And also, for some people who are contented being in their comfort zone, maybe they already have all they need. They have achieved everything they could possibly have wanted, and they know what their limits are and just don't see a point in pushing forward. In your opinion, what can be done about people not choosing what they are meant to do?
There are multiple ways for you to figure out what you really like and what you want to do. And when you are a student, you treasure that experiences to do some exchange, to explore the world, to travel, to read, because you wouldn't have that much luxury to do it when you start working full time. And when you are a professional, if you still haven't found out your passion, you can try different ways through talking to people, through talking with your boss, see whether you are able to shadow some job that you are really interested. And third thing is that you have to know that there's a meaning for everything that you do right now. Probably you can't see it right now, and it will be paid back in the future. Don't settle and keep seeking.
Don't settle and keep seeking. As long as you keep going, you'll somehow be able to find something that you can hook on that will lead you to where you probably need to be in your next step of life. Okay, now I want to ask you a very controversial question because we're talking a lot about students, right? Do you think there needs to be some kind of major change or overhaul to the current education system to better help young people find and do what they are meant to do in life?
Certainly, I think in some international schools or areas with more advanced education, there's something called 生涯规划 career planning. They start introducing the kind of courses into the school, and students can have the conversations and getting to think about this question. So this is definitely a good sign that we have let the students to think about what do they want to do in the future. All of the subjects that we have in school is just a kind of building our foundation, maybe critical thinking, maybe the knowledge around certain areas. But with AI, that's a encyclopedia for almost everything. It's not the knowledge, it is how we can use this tool for our favor. So we have to find out what we are really passionate about, what problem we want to solve, what skills we have. How can we bring together a group of people to work with us? It's more around the soft skills rather than the knowledge itself. There is a Design Your Life series of courses and books from Stanford University, and I found that people are really obsessed with that concept. Take the diary of their daily life, high, low, to reflect and to have a conversation with people to identify the problem, the core problem. And another thing that I think is really good is in a lot of US college, they give the students choices in the maybe first or second year to try as many subjects as possible. You can just try different things based on your interest. So if students are really not sure what their future would be like, they can just pick the courses of their interest and they can explore until they find it. So it's also a really good way. I think more and more universities should be having this kind of flexibility for students to better understand themselves.
Interesting. And I actually agree as well because instead of trying to limit, we should actually give them a much bigger playground to explore and to see what works for them. And then you touch on something that I wanted to talk to you about: soft skills like communication, leadership, mentorship. Do you feel like we have enough soft skill education for young people nowadays, or should there be more, and why?
Yeah, I think when I was studying in China, there are all sorts of social activities like student clubs, entrepreneurship. There are quite a wide range of things that students can be exposed. But it all depends on students' personal motivation and drive. It's not compulsory. If you want to do it, you can. When I went to study overseas, I found that in most of the courses, we are not focusing on the individual performance anymore. How hard you study, whether you really understand the concept, the knowledge itself. It's more about how you work together as a team, the group project to solve more complex problems. There's not much education around leadership. I think leadership is not taught, it's learning by doing. So does communication and storytelling. If there's some resources for them to get an understanding of it, then start practicing it. Maybe they would get better and better at it. So I noticed that some students would join debate club in the university, or if Toastmasters has a branch in the university, then certainly Toastmaster would be a great platform for public speaking and influence. So I think having this kind of soft skill platform and the exposure, the courses, the training, the practices, it would be the good way for students to start brush up these skills so that they can bring it with them to the future workplace or wherever they go in the future.
You just made a perfect segue right there. So we both met in Toastmasters, and I wanted to ask you, what do you think of Toastmasters as an organization and your experiences in it? For example, maybe you can talk about why did you join and why are you still in it today?
I think the Toastmasters is the most well organized nonprofit organizations that I've seen. So I'm quite impressed by its scale, its impact around the world. It has built a perfect model for people to keep engaged if they are interested. From the business perspective, I think it's very successful. But when we bring Toastmasters format into our life, I would often find that it's not always so applicable. I have to twist, to change, to see what's the context, what's the situation, and then I can figure out the new way of doing it.
Can you
But
give us an example of how it's not immediately applicable? Because that's probably a question that a lot of Toastmasters actually have. It's how can I take something I learned from a nonprofit and use it in a commercial space?
I was preparing for my international speech contest. I watched a lot of champion videos on website, and I found that for a lot of the videos, it's mostly about the stories, our personal stories. What's our past? What's the conflict, struggles in our life? What's the key message to the people? But when we communicate at workplace, it's less about us. It's more about the problem that we are solving. It's the business, the complex stakeholder relations we have to think about. What do they care? How can you get the information across so that they buy in? So there's some similarities with Toastmaster speech is that you have to focus on who you are talking to, your audiences. It's the most important thing before you start crafting the speech or the presentation. That is the similarities in between. But the format of delivering the speech, the Toastmasters champion speech has a certain mode which is less applicable to the work. So that's the reason why I sometimes watch TED speech. There are so many varieties. People deliver it in very different format, but each of them they would craft the speech in a way that's inspiring to the audiences, that providing the information. It opened a new world for me. I think the communication and the way to craft the story is certainly something valuable from Toastmasters, but I have to consider for the business presentation, maybe there's something called SCQA or a different kind of format. It's more applicable to the workplace.
Interesting. I like how you made the distinction between Toastmasters and the workplace, because A lot of people, including myself, I would assume that the kind of communication techniques that we learn and use in Toastmasters can be immediately applicable everywhere in the same format. And the way you describe it really illustrates the point that communication itself, it's so multifaceted and so many varieties. So perhaps there are some things that we can retain, like the skill or some techniques, but some formats we have to adjust depending on the situation and environment we are in. Continuing on Toastmasters, so you have just finished your contest journey, and congratulations for your achievement. You achieved, I think, was it first runner up in the division level?
Yeah, second place winner.
So I wanted to ask you, what was your motivation in joining and persevering in the contest journey? Because as we know, preparing content is one thing, practicing is another. So there must be a reason why you joined. Is it for the prize? Is it to prove something? Or are you more about sending a message across?
At the beginning, I want to join the contest is because I want to improve my storytelling, my skills, because I found that without the pressure of competition, the deadline of the speech competition, then I wouldn't have that much time and energy to brush up my script again and again and again. So I think I'm more value the process, how it would help me to be better at public speaking and storytelling. That's my initial thought. But as I go through the entire process, I started thinking about what are the topics, what is the message that I want to tell in this contest season. I started thinking about it late 2023, and I've been thinking for 2 or 3 months about okay, what other speech I want to tell. I have wrote multiple speeches, and every time when I think, oh, this is a good one, it's my personal story, I have a key message. When I shared it with my mentor, they found, mm, think about it. This is not something new for the audiences. What do they care? What do they want to learn? What do they? What are the impact you want to make? Then I have to keep thinking. That's why after several trials and errors, I finally figure out that the speech that I want to tell is that life is short. We have to make the best use of our time. That's the speech that I did at the club level. And when I progress to the area level, I have been thinking whether this is a message that I really want to let the audiences know and what actions they can take after listening to my speech. I found that from that perspective, this is not the impact that I want to make, although it's quite technically sound. So I have to keep thinking for the new topics. And one day, I had a meeting with my boss. I burst into tears. I realized that since I'm a junior one in the team, I have to constantly think what their needs are, how can I make them satisfied so that they can provide positive feedback to me. That's also the experiences that I had in the past has told me to manage. It certainly burned out for me that, oh, at that moment, I just realized that why do I keep everyone happy but not considering about my own goals, and my boss also reminded me about that to make myself happy, that we cannot make everyone happy. And that is the spark that I need for my speech. It's the mask where I utilized the stories from the beginning of my career and the transition and to my personal life, family relationships. I found that in many situations, we often want to play our perfect self. We want to show people that we are capable, we are independent, we are strong, but sometimes we hide ourselves, our own needs, just not being true to ourselves. So I realized how important it is to be authentic, to be vulnerable. I thought, oh wow, this is a perfect speech because it is also part of our culture. We think in others' shoes, we make others happy, and it's all harmonious. But certainly, some people's needs would be sacrificed. And I just crafted as a speech, polished it again and again, and then I got to the area level. It's actually the speech I completed writing 2 days before. I didn't have much time to polish it, but I just knew that if I put in my authenticity, my emotions, what has been really struggling for me, and could get get through it. And it proved that it did. So after the area level, I have been keep writing it for more than 10 versions, trying to reach out to different people for the feedback until the day before. After the contest, I got some new ideas, inspirations. I changed the first part of my speech again. And then I found, oh wow, it's like you are crafting a masterpiece until the time that you deliver it. You always find that, okay, there's a way to change, there's a way to modify it to be better. So even on the stage, I did something that's not something I practiced or experienced in the past. I feel like, oh, it's okay for me to change because I got new inspiration. I just want to get the message across, no matter what ways. I want to make them feel that they can relate. So that is my contest journey. At the beginning, just trying to brush up my skills, and later on, I found that it's more important to make the impact to your audiences. They can take actions after listening to your speech.
Wow, that's a very beautiful journey, and your achievement should be well celebrated for that. And we can already hear the kind of really grueling efforts that went into it. I'm sure perhaps there were some times you also felt like giving up as well, right?
Yeah,
Because the pressure was so great, and yet you still managed to persevere and to share your beautiful story. Do you have any plans to go further and reach to the international stage? Do you have the kind of aspirations and dreams for that?
yeah, I do. I think for me, the process of attending speech competition is a perfect way for me to know myself. If I don't share my story, if I don't look back, I probably wouldn't have similar kind of awareness of myself. So I wouldn't think in the way that I need to get the result. I want to think more in a way that I want to know myself better. I want to get the information, get the message across. I want to make the impact to the audiences. That is the reason why I want to become an international speaker and coach so I can impact as many people as possible. And public speaking is a perfect way. I'm already being more intentional in my daily life to see what are the stories, what are the messages that I really want to tell to the audiences, and thinking about, okay, how I can deliver it in a way that they fully accept.
Wow, that's amazing. And definitely looking forward to more of your speeches and also your next attempt next year. So now we have come to the end of the show. And thank you so much, Yifan, for sharing your experiences on the show to our audience and also to me, because today I definitely have learned a lot from you. And knowing you for a little less than 2 years, I actually never had such an in depth conversation with you. So today it's really a very big eye opener for me as well. And now, before we end the show, what is one message that you would like to send out to the world that you want to influence people with?
I would like to use the quote that has helped me to get into Toastmasters. It's a quote by my mentor, also someone who's really influential in the Toastmasters. If you got 1 minute to speak to the world, what would you say? And I just realized how powerful it is. I don't know what do I want to say, so I have to keep searching, keep finding it, keep reflecting my life to be more self-aware, to think about what impact I want to make. And that has led me to Toastmasters. So today, I think I'm still searching for that one powerful sentence that can help influence more people. I would throw this question to you. I think we all got different inspiration from people around us or from what we love. We just need to keep doing it and to be better at it, to bring more people together with you to help them. And we together can create the powerful, the collective impact to make this world a better place.
I couldn't have wished for a better ending than this. Thank you so much, YiFan. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And where can we find you? Because you make social media content videos. Where can we find you?
You can follow me on my WeChat channel. It's called 是一凡呀. And I'm also on Red. I'm also on Douyin. And recently, I just renewed to start posting written content on LinkedIn. Thank you, Ken, for having me. It is a great journey to be on your podcast, and I hope that this can be a spark for many people to start doing something to make the change in their life.
Let this be a spark to ignite the drive in all of us. So thank you very much again. And this is the end of the show. Thank you for listening in to Academy of Influence. This is the 4th episode, and we will see you next time.